I think folks might remember if you were on last week, we looked at this diagram and we looked at this diagram to talk about um, capitalism and to talk about racial capitalism. And we're going to use it again to start to talk about a concept called hegemony, because in neoliberalism, part of the way that the ideas in neoliberalism continue to work, can you put it back on the previous slide? Part of the ways that the ideas in neoliberalism work are through the creation of this common sense that benefits the ruling class, which are the folks that we're seeing up at the top. And we didn't really get into the whole structure of this pyramid, but what we're seeing here is we're seeing the ruling class at the top. We're seeing folks that represent different social institutions, right? Like people talked about like education being something privatized, but education is also an institution that is a part of our society, right? Religion is also an institution that's part of our society. And there's all of these other institutions that are not the government, but hold up these ideas that are very in line with the interests of the ruling class. And so let's go to the next slide, Samir. And so that those interests are called, or that common sense idea is called hegemony. And so hegemony was coined by Antonio Gramsci, who's a writer, who was a writer in Austria, I believe it was, writing during the revolution in the 1940s, and defined hegemony as political, cultural, and moral norms established by those in power within society and maintained by subordinated peoples who experience them as common sense or normal, right? And so last week, when we talked about private property or we talked about commodities, like the idea that property is private is an idea that benefits the ruling class. The ruling class benefits from the fact that, or the idea that property is something that is a commodity to be bought and sold and to be profited off of. And so we, as renters, we buy into this idea because, these are the dominant ideas, because that's what holds up capitalism. That's what keeps capitalism going. That's how capitalism functions, and how we're exploited through that process is because we believe that our basic human rights are things that, because they have been privatized by the ruling class, right? Oh, Gramsci was Italian. Yes, he was in an Italian jail. Sorry. Um, and so then click the next slide. Oh, nope, actually go back to that slide. I'm sorry. Um, and so one of the other ideas that comes from hegemony in relationship to this is this idea of individualism. And a lot of times when we are, a lot of times we feel like we have our own individual responsibilities to take care of certain basic human needs. And a lot of times our housing is one of those things that we definitely feel that we individually, have to take care of. That if we have a problem with our housing, that's an individual problem, that's ours alone, and it's something that we have to solve or handle alone. And those ideas come from this hegemony, or this, kind of common sense that everybody's supposed to have this individual responsibility, right? And so I wanted to ask folks to just take a little bit of time to reflect, because, you know, overall um, the overall point of this part is that, you know, landlords are banking off of a set of cultural norms and practices that normalizes this idea that we pay for our basic needs. And I want us to just take a little bit of time to think about what are some of the other ideas that are considered, you know, normal that impact you or the people that you love, and where did you learn those ideas?